So I kind of wanted to start with my kind of childhood. So I grew up in Jaywick. I don't know if anyone knows where that is, but anyway, it's quite a poor area. And I grew up in a 2-bedroom bungalow with 4 siblings and my parents. And me and my sister shared a room, and my 2 brothers shared a bedroom. And then my parents would be living in the living room. So their bed was in the living room. So it's quite a small place to grow up. And I just have this memory of like laying on my bed, maybe I was about 7, and looking out at the stars, and just thinking like there must be more to life than this. And I think that was like my first kind of experience of like an existential kind of crisis or something. Just being a kid looking out at the stars, going like there must be so much more beyond this. Yeah. So I've got quite a lot of years to cover, so I'll go forward. So my teenage years, quite a lot happened. My parents divorced when I was a young teenager. Because of that, my mum had given away my dog. I didn't actually have any emotional kind of support. So my dog was like my emotional support this time. And I still get emotional about it. It was just like, my mum couldn't handle having 4 kids. My dad had left. She was left with like loads of dogs, cats, guinea pigs, rabbits. We'd moved to Colchester by this point. We'd moved away from Jaywick, and we were living in a bigger house. But she was left with like basically a lot of responsibility. She was only in her early 30s. She had us all when she was quite young. And I think my experience of that time was my parents had divorced. My mum had kind of gone on a bit of her own crisis. She'd given away my dog because she couldn't handle having a lot of animals. I kind of was left with this, lack of emotional support, basically. No one at school really picked up on it, probably because I could hold myself together quite well. My older brother shut himself away, but I ended up looking after my younger siblings, probably because I was the oldest girl in the family. And around this kind of point, I kind of cut off from my emotions, and I kind of turned to music as a bit of a safe haven and refuge. And that also led me to self-harm sometimes, just to try and feel something, I guess. So that kind of carried on through my mid-teens. And so I went on to college. I decided that I didn't want to stay in education. I kind of really didn't like reading loads of heady books, and I just felt like I really had a lot of practical abilities and practical things to give. So I ended up going to catering school and learning how to cook, and found myself really good at it, actually. My tutor was a bit upset when I became Buddhist during this time and stopped eating meat, and then stopped tasting my food that I was cooking. They didn't really teach us vegetarian and vegan cooking that much, so it's kind of like a bit of a kind of side thing. Anyway, so that happened. But the kind of my meeting of the Dharma happened during this time at college. I had a realization in a situation where someone was bullying me, and I realized that I had a part to play in that. So what would happen is he'd pick on me a bit, I would react, I'd yell back, he'd get something out of it, so then he would continue doing it, and it was just a bit of a cycle, basically. And there was a point where I felt a tap on my shoulder in the class. We were with the same people all year round, and he tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around, told him to F off, and realised when I turned around that it wasn't this guy that had been picking on me. It was another person, and actually it was a friend of mine, and it was a guy that was really kind and sweet. And I think when I turned and saw his face, and I saw like the devastation in his face, it just kind of triggered like a response in me that, I just felt remorse, basically. It was like, I've caused harm to that person. And essentially, I think that realization was that I had an effect in that situation. So, regardless of whether it was him or not, if I had yelled at the bully, then it would have been the same kind of situation. I wouldn't have realized it so much, but I still had an effect, basically. And at this point, I just decided in myself that I didn't want to be a person of hatred. I didn't want to live with hatred. And I had quite an explosive, I still do kind of work on it, but I have a bit of an explosive relationship with my mum. And I think I realised that the conditions that go into that and the conditions that went into this kind of situation with this guy were both, I had an effect on both of those relationships. I had a part to play. And so I realised that I needed to change something in myself, and that these other people weren't going to change themselves. Like, I can't tell them to change. Like, oh, I can't tell that person to stop bullying me. I can't tell my mum to stop being my mum in whatever way she was. So what happened was I can't remember what happened at the time. It could have been a week, could have been a day, could have been a month, I don't know. But I typed Buddhism into Google. And the Colchester Buddhist Centre came up. And I'm still not sure today why Buddhism was the first kind of thing that came to my mind. I'd looked into paganism and Christianity and other things earlier in my life. But yeah, at 17, I kind of wandered into the Buddhist Centre, said, look, I want to change my mind. And it was a meditation on metta, and it was a series on ethics that was running at the time. And so I went down into the shrine room to meditate, and I hadn't really had much interest in meditation. But yeah, we were led through the metta bhavana practice, and they said, like, don't put your worst enemy in the fourth stage, like, oh, why would you do that? But I was like, no, I'm here to change my mind, so I'm going to do exactly that. So I put I put this guy who was like picking on me quite a lot in college into my fourth stage of the metta bhavana, into the stage of the enemy, and it just transformed something. I think that, in combination with learning about Buddhist ethics, I left and went back to college each day. And over the next number of months, I just saw the change and the effect that me doing something with my mind could have on a situation. And this guy stopped picking on me because I wasn't. He couldn't latch on to any. It's like he couldn't touch me anymore. He couldn't latch on to anything. So he just stopped. He just moved on to picking on someone else. He actually went on to pick on one of my best friends. Actually, that wasn't very good. But I just kind of was trying to say to her, oh, well, you could change the way you're reacting to that. And don't think that went down very well. Anyway, she's still one of my best friends. But yeah. So yeah, this kind of realizing and entering this transformation process of moving away from hatred and towards metta, towards love, through meditation and ethics, just completely changed my life, really. The effect that it had on my mind, like I'd be in college, and you know how, I don't know if any of you worked in professional kitchens, but they can get quite stressful. People can get quite stressed out. It can get really heated, hot, etc. And I'd just be quite calm, just be calmly, getting on. And it's not that I would be really slow, like I'd be chopping quite fast, but I just had this groundedness about me that just had an effect. I think it had an effect on the whole class, actually. I think that everyone probably picked up that. Well, the people definitely picked up that something was different. They were like, "What the hell are you doing?" Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I guess I wanted to fast forward a bit to kind of my my initial meeting of these Buddhas and the effect that they had on my life. So, as I was saying, I wanted to move away from hatred and towards love. And I remember we had this series on a Thursday night, which is a Dharma class at the Colchester Buddhist Centre. And there was a question that was asked. So we'd been looking at all of these figures. And someone said, oh, well, what's the figure that you connect to? And And I said, well, I connect to Amitabha. And the reason that I connect to Amitabha is because I aspire to be more like him. I felt like I was lacking in love, and I wanted to move towards this love and this like complete radiance like the sun. And I also really loved that his animal is a peacock, and that his consort, or female Buddha, is Pandaravashini, and her animal is a phoenix. So we've got these kind of combination of this animal that can digest poison and a phoenix that is kind of in the flames of transformation. So these figures really spoke to me in a way that the others didn't. And I wanted to say something about my relationship to puja, actually. So over my years of practice, I originally didn't engage with puja at all. Actually, I didn't make an offering until about maybe a year or a year and a half into my Buddhist life. I sat through Buddhist rituals like, nope. And I don't know if you've seen, but some people have been doing like full-length prostrations. And I think the first ritual I'd been in, 3 fully grown, quite bulky men threw themselves at the floor. And I was like, did they all just simultaneously fall over? Anyway, it turned out that it was intentional, but it kind of freaked me out a little bit. But yeah, something of like moving into this archetypal realm, this realm where these figures live, it started to really move me, and particularly mantra. So although I wouldn't go up and make an offering, I would feel really moved by mantra. And it kind of like, I just digested all the mantras that I could get. And I was saying to someone, I think it's someone in my group, that I remember leaving one of these rituals, and we did this mantra to Maitreya. And the mantra goes, Om Maitri Maha Maitri, Maitri Swaha. And I'd recorded it on my phone, and I called it the My Tree mantra, like my tree outside, because I couldn't spell the name Maitreya. But yeah, there was just something about these mantras that really called to me. And I think it was kind of the start of probably my emotional world just coming more and more into being. Like there was more and more recognition of my emotional world and the importance and the part that plays in existing. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about like play and like dance in the mandala. So so in the pandemic, I watched on repeat on Disney Plus the musical Hamilton. So I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it kind of it's a rap musical. It's very good, and it's about the founding fathers of the United States. And in particular, it focuses on Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, who have this kind of a bit of like a battle between them, like throughout the whole thing, and basically, like Hamilton does everything that he wants to whatever extent, regardless of the effect that it has on other people. Like he cheats on his wife, and then he publishes it, and then kind of he doesn't really regard her in that. He just kind of wants to make sure that he is protected and his name is protected. And then you've got Aaron Burr, who kind of comes from quite a noble, upright family, quite popular, kind of up in the States or something. Anyway, he has a name to protect. He has this pride and something to protect. And they're kind of battling it out. And then you've got George Washington, so who becomes the first president of the United States. And in the depiction of this musical, George Washington is just this upright, kind of noble person who does what's right, but not at the extent of his loved ones. And he's not trying to protect himself. So he's like the best of Aaron Burr and the best of Alexander Hamilton combined, trying to live a life in service of his country. And so this kind of really had an effect on me and my internal world. And I was just looking at what does it mean to have what does it mean to have these two parts of myself that pull in different directions? And then what does it mean to put something in the centre that is of service, of love, and of integrity? And yeah, so I was thinking about this mandala and the kind of like ways that I use it. So there's generosity, there's love, there's groundedness in the earth touching, there's fearlessness, and there's wisdom. And I think in my practice, I'm really just trying to move more and more towards balancing myself out in these directions. And it does really feel like a play. It feels like sometimes in my life I need to kind of really hold my ground more and be embodied and communicate from there. And then at other times, I just need to really break open and love. And yeah, just something about the embodiment of these figures that I kind of internalize and then think, how can I act from that place? And having them in these figures, really just helps with that. Like, actually, can I just be fearless in this moment? Or actually, can I just like sit open, receptive, and love? So now I just wanted to talk a little bit about my practice now, and then I'll finish. I think the reason that I still practice the Dharma and I'm still a Buddhist is because I just constantly want to go beyond myself. I want to go beyond like the poisons that these figures represent. I want to go beyond hatred, beyond greed, beyond like pride. And actually, for me, it's more of a negative pride. I tend to get myself into a lot of comparison and then put myself below others, and then I kind of shy away. That's the kind of Aaron Burr in me. I kind of hide. And then I also want to move away from envy and comparison in that way. So yeah, I guess why I'm still practicing is because I just see that there's still potential for me to grow and change. And I was sitting looking at the shrine the other night, and I was having a bit of a painful experience internally. And there's a sutta that just came to mind, and something happens, a disciple, blah, blah, blah. And then the Buddha says, this is a true refuge, this is a safe refuge. And those words just went through my mind as I looked at the shrine. And I just thought, yeah, this is a true refuge, this is a safe refuge. And this is how I want to continue to practice my life.